Hey, and welcome to the second video in this series where we talk about the second C, which is content. So let's crack into it. Okay. So look, this is the second of the five. We've already covered context, which is kind of understanding that the market has shifted and you really need to be thinking in terms of how you can help investors rather than just focusing on getting money for a particular project. Content I'm going to go into in this section. Next section, we're going to talk about the connections, which are the actual people that you need to have in your network and at what stages. Then I'm going to talk about how you construct a deal. And then we're going to talk about how you maintain the ongoing relationship rather than the sort of one-time transactional approach, which is what most people in finance do. So just a reminder, the whole idea of this is that you're going to be building a network of investors that know you, like you, and trust you, but you're also going to be connected to another network of network leaders that each have their own network behind them. And between you, you're going to be passing deals to make sure that the right deals end up in front of the right investors, rather than the sort of traditional method of just showing the same deal to everyone and hoping you get lucky. Now, look, I know that there are people coming into this program that have got a very wide range of experiences. I know we've got some incredibly sophisticated investors on this program. I also know there's people that have never been in this space before. And we've got a lot of entrepreneurs that are trying to raise capital for their own programs as well. So what I'm going to do is kind of assume that you haven't got any background at all in this space. If you find that some of this stuff is rudimentary, just skip over it and move on to the next bit. So basically the playbook that I'm building here, and I definitely recommend you read Progressive Partnerships, because this talks about how I built my first networks and how you can do that as well. It focuses very much on the in real life versus virtual networks, but exactly the same principles apply. So if I was starting today and I didn't know anyone, which is kind of the situation I found myself in 25 years ago when I moved to Thailand from the UK, and I didn't know anyone in Thailand, had to build my network from scratch. Even if it had occurred to me at the time to start my own network, I wouldn't have started from zero because I didn't know anyone. So the key thing that you want to start doing is joining existing networks. And this is a really, really important process, and we'll kind of dig into it a little bit more. But go to these networks, find out what's working, find out what's not working. What do you like about them? Do you feel awkward when you walk in? If you go into one networking event and everyone ignores you, versus you go into another networking event and someone makes you feel welcome and introduces you to people, how does that make you feel? Which one are you more comfortable with? Is there an event where there's a speaker? Is the speaker interesting? Is it just connections? What works for you? What doesn't work for you? Because ultimately, when you're building your network, it will take on your personality. So the things that you like are the things that you will encourage in your network, and the ones that you don't like, hopefully you will cut out of your network. But you need to go and attend other people's networks in order to understand that. Now, that might be online, it might be offline. So there's plenty of resources on both. We'll jump into it. Start to build your connections. Start to meet people on these sites, in these groups, at these events. Find out why they're there. What are they looking for? What would make this a successful event for them? And then what are they known for, and what do you want to be known for? So this is a big topic in of itself, and you might not even have an idea right now, but you need to be thinking about what is the topic of investing, because investing is a huge environment. What is the area that you're most interested in? Are you interested in cutting edge crypto or AI investing? Is that the space that you want to be known for? Are you more interested in yield producing assets, so maybe rental properties or bonds or dividend stocks? What is it that kind of holds your interest? What are you most likely to want to read about or to click on a video of? Because that's ultimately, you need to have that level of interest if you're going to attract other people towards you. Once you started doing those things, the next thing is really to start sharing content that you're interested in that's related to this, because that will let people in your network know that you're moving from whatever you've been sharing in the past, party pictures or videos of cats, to now what's of interest to you at the time. So start to share content that is of interest to the network that you're building rather than what you've currently got. Always be focused on creating value. Now, everyone that you meet and anyone that joins your network is not going to join it because they're nice people and they want to help you out. Nobody's got the time for that. People will only join your network if they can see how they will get value from it. And there's a few ways they can get value from it, but one of it will be access to knowledge. Another will be access to contacts. And one of the big advantages that we're having is that we're going to be connecting great people together. So if you get a reputation as being someone that pulls together great people, more and more people want to be in your network because they want, not about you, but they want to meet other people in your network. So you can leverage off other people. Now, what that means is if you are sitting here going, well, I come from a completely different industry than finance. I don't know anyone in that space. I don't have any background in this, or I'm just young. Then the whole point is you don't need to leverage on your own brand. You can leverage on other people's brands. Once you get that first person that says they'll attend your networking event, then you use them as the hook to attract somebody else. And once you get 5 interesting people joining your community, then you use that 5 as the hook to attract the next 5, and so on and so on. And really your own personal background, it becomes irrelevant. It's just people want to connect because they want to get connected to those other people. And I'm going to share a couple of videos of interviews I've done with people that have leveraged that effect very, very successfully. And then ultimately we are in this because we want to make money from putting investors and deals together and taking a slice of it. Now, what I would suggest is, while you're, especially if you're coming from no background in this, don't worry about trying to cut yourself into deals. Just connect people. If they go and do business together, great. You don't worry about the fact you haven't made money on it. Just connect them, get used to putting people together, get used to finding out what deals work, what deals don't work. Because once you have that comfort level, then you can start to structure yourself into those deals. If you try and do it too early, then actually what happens is you end up alienating both sides of the deal, and the deal doesn't happen. And we don't ever want to be someone that blocks deals. We want to be a facilitator of deals, because that way more deals will come to us. So look, there's plenty of opportunities out there. It's never, ever been easier to connect with people in this space. You can be doing it geographically. So I'm based in Singapore, so I might make a point of trying to meet with all of the family offices in Singapore. Max, who I interview in one of the videos, has done this brilliantly. You might decide that if your focus is AI investors, that you want to go onto LinkedIn and try and find all the AI investors globally and put them together into one resource. So what you need to do is go and connect with geographically local AI investors in each city, join their groups. Meetup, Telegram, online, offline. Like, there are so many different resources. Just start Googling and join every group you can with a genuine desire to get in there and meet people. The whole idea at this early stage is that you're just trying to get to know investors, and you need to start talking to them. And what you will find very quickly is that investors speak a very weird, different language, full of words that don't make sense in the real world. I know myself, I am prone to dropping into investor lingo and confusing normal people. So you want to get to a point where you're comfortable listening to the terms and even using the terms that investors use. And this is important because for you to have any credibility as you go through this journey, you need to be able to talk to investors in their own language. So it might be confusing at the beginning. You might spend an awful lot of time Googling stuff. Don't worry about it. It's just part of the journey. We've all done it. Fortunately, Google exists now. Whereas in the early days of my career, meeting investors, and I would just stare blankly when they were talking to me in investor language. This is something that always comes up when I talk about building connections, and we'll go into this in more depth in the next section. Often people get confused between this concept of connections and friends, and in their mind, they don't want to be connections with someone that wouldn't be their friend. And in fact, in the book, I think probably the most controversial area of the book is when I talk about this. And I think I did a post on LinkedIn around the time it came out that said, would you ever do business with somebody that you didn't like? And it was very, very easy to see in the comments who was an experienced business person and who was an inexperienced business person. And the inexperienced business people all said, I'd never work with somebody that I don't like. My time's too valuable. The experienced business people said, of course, my responsibility is to do deals. I have a responsibility to my staff, my clients, my shareholders. Whether I like someone or not is irrelevant. I have to do business with them. So I need you to be thinking in terms of that. When you meet someone, you don't need to like them. You just need to understand how they would create value to other people in your network. Now, that doesn't mean attract horrible people into your network. It also means you will end up meeting lots and lots of people that you end up becoming great friends with. But you can't let your network be determined by just people that you would really genuinely want to spend an evening with, because life's too short. So you just need to focus on volume. And this question of quality versus quantity also comes up a lot. Should I just be focused on investors that can drop $1 million in a go, or should I be focused on investors even if their investment minimum is 10,000? Right now, at the beginning of your journey, it's quantity. Just talk to everyone, just invite everyone, get connected to people, start helping people, just get into the mindset. And interestingly enough, what happens is when you get connected to a high volume of people, a high quantity, that in itself becomes quality to somebody else. So I've touched on this before, this idea of traction. Like if you're investing your time in 5 family offices coming together for lunch once a quarter, and that group really trusts each other, passes deals around, you could say there's a very high level of traction. So if you put a deal together and you present it at that lunch, everyone's going to listen, they're going to take notes, they're going to be interested in it because they trust you. Now, if you've built a YouTube channel with 200,000 people following you and you put out a deal, you might have very low traction. So the vast majority of people that are watching that channel might not be interested in your deal, but you've got such a high volume that a small percentage is still a high number of people that would be interested. So there is value in both. At the start, I would say focus on quantity. Just try and connect with anyone, try and learn from everyone. And then over time, you can start to refine and decide, do you want to ramp that up? Are you somebody that genuinely thrives on volume? Or do you want to narrow it down and just focus on people that resonate with your values, have money to invest right now, or whatever your criteria is? This is an interesting one. And I think this is kind of a counter to the current advice around raising capital, which is create a nice deck, go and knock on 1,000 doors. And kind of the law of 100 says that, look, if you meet 100 people, maybe only 1 or 2 of them would even be a target for your opportunity. So say you're trying to raise money of 100 people, there might only be a couple of them that are actively focused on investing in an area that you're in. And it might not even be the right time for them. So even if you get the right people, it might not be the right time. Now, the typical way of doing it is you knock on the first door, and if that person isn't interested, you knock on the next door, and so on and so on. You don't try and build any relationship with any of those doors. Now, if you flip that model on its head and say, okay, I'm not expecting any of the next 100 people I meet to be a good target for what I'm trying to offer. Instead, I'm going to view them all as potential allies for a future project. So I'm not going to try and pitch them anything. I'm not going to try and sell them on any idea. I'm just going to try and build them as an ally. And in order to do that, I need to ask some questions. I need to find out what they're interested in, how we could potentially work together in the future. So not everyone can be a prospect, but almost everyone can be an ally if you approach them right, if you frame it right. And it's a much more fun way of going through life, is looking to partner with people and rather than looking to sell to people. So as you are going through your first networking events, do be thinking in terms of, hey, could this be an ally in building my new network? I sort of touch on this. So what do you want to be known for? Property, crypto, equities, bonds, whatever. This is always a big challenge with people. It's a challenge that entrepreneurs have. It's a challenge that people in their careers have, and it's a challenge that investors have. We hate being labeled because we're multi-dimensional creatures. We've got tons of interests. You might have some investment in crypto. You might also own a property. You might want to buy another property. That doesn't mean you're not interested in buying Tesla stock. So we have all of these different interests, but the reality of the way the human brain works is that when I meet you for a short period of time, I have to put you in a box. I have to label you and store you in my brain under that. And if you don't make it easy for me to label you, then I'll put my own label on you. So, and what you really want is for when I've met you, for me to then be able to talk to other people about you and say, hey, this person's doing some really cool stuff. They're pulling together a network of investors. It's not right for me because I only invest in this space, but you said you're investing in real estate. You should definitely go and talk to this person. So you want to be known for that. Now, the example I've given a few times in the past is the way I learned this was I heard at a networking event, I was going around introducing myself as an entrepreneur, and people say, well, what do you do? And I'd say, well, I've got a business over here and I do this and I kind of do this. And I've just about to start a new project here. And nobody had any idea what I did. And I was fine with that. I thought it kind of showed how clever I was. But then I overheard somebody describe me as the bald Kiwi, which Kiwi being a term for a New Zealander, which was a very accurate description of me, but it wasn't really how I wanted to be known. And so from that moment on, I got very, very clear on, look, I'm involved in lots of things, but this is my main thing. And that's what you need to be thinking of. Now, you might not know it yet, and you might change it over time, but start thinking, what would you be comfortable being known for? Who would you want to be referred into your network? If I could go out and say to my network, hey, you should go and talk to you, why should they talk to you? What is it that you want to be known for? So start to think about that, and make sure your social media presence reflects that interest. So if you've Googled me, or if you look on LinkedIn at any of my stuff, all of my content is at the intersection of small business and capital markets, or small businesses and investing. Everything is in that space. I personally have real estate investments. I personally have AI investments. I have some very small angel investment stuff. But I don't talk about it in public at all, because I don't want to be bombarded with those kind of deals. I also don't want to confuse my target market. I want my target market to know I'm the person to talk to about small business and capital raising. And I want other people, and I want people in my network to talk to people in their network and say, oh, if you're in small business and you want to do capital raising, go and talk to Callum. So that's the point around personal brand. And I really encourage you to start thinking about it quite seriously. Start sharing content of interest on your profile. I would strongly recommend setting up an email to people that you meet once a month, once a quarter, just to let them know. Again, in one of the videos that I talked to Max, he did this through WhatsApp group, which is fine, or a Telegram group. The point is you need to be connecting with people on a regular basis. If you just meet someone at an event, or maybe they come to your event, but you don't continue to connect with them, you don't continue to communicate with them, they won't think of themselves as being in your community, and you can't really think of them as being in your community. So you have to be communicating with someone on a regular basis for them to be a member of your community. Communicate in whichever way is more comfortable for you and more comfortable for them. But you do need to be starting and be thinking in terms of what content they would be interested in. Now, oftentimes people think, well, I can't share content because I'm not an expert. I don't have years and years of experience. You don't need to be the expert. You can be the person on the journey. There's nothing wrong with that. I think Tim Ferriss did this brilliantly. In fact, I'm just looking at his book now. The 4-Hour Body is a book that Tim wrote about 10 years ago or something. And at the beginning of that book, he says, I am not the expert on all of these things that I'm going to cover in this book. I am just the guide, and I go and interview people, and you can learn along with me. And that was his idea. And so there's nothing wrong with you going out to your network and saying, hey, I'm starting to learn about this investing thing. I'm starting to put together a network of investors. Hey, did you know this? I've just found out this. That is interesting, and it's interesting to people, and it helps to build connection with you in a very authentic way. So don't feel that you have to be the expert. Most important thing is creating value. So going back to this idea, people will never join your network because they want to help you out, or you might have a few of your friends do that, but they won't last. I absolutely guarantee it. The people that last are the people that are getting value from your network. So focus on how you can create value. What is the information that you could go and do the digging on and find out and get access to that they wouldn't be able to, or it'd take them time to do, and you can condense that information for them. If you can do that, that becomes super valuable. And the other one, the one that I lean on heavily the most, is connections. Again, if you don't have, if you're not an interesting enough person that people are going to flood to your network from day one, then start to connect to other interesting people, and they become the magnet. And then the sheer volume of people becomes a magnet to other people. Everyone wants to know, well, why is everyone going to this networking group? I want to be a part of that as well. And it kind of snowballs in effect. So information and connections are really the two things. Now, this kind of superpower that I talk about is connecting to people in your network. And it's something that I try and do almost on a daily basis. Is when I meet somebody interesting, I think, okay, who would I know in my network that would like to connect with this person? And then I just connect them. And in the book, book Progressive Partnerships, I talk about it being like a cheap round. It doesn't cost me anything to do. I say, hey, look, you're working in this space. You should definitely talk to this person. She's working in this space as well. You're both great people. I hope you guys can do something interesting together. Very relaxed and just a connection. I don't do it like if I don't think it's going to be a good connection, I'd never do it. But if I think they can help each other, then that's a great way to add value for your network. Oops. Sorry. Okay, and then ultimately we want to be known as a rainmaker, a deal maker, someone that can make stuff happen. So at the beginning, like I said, I wouldn't try and focus on pushing your own deals too much. I would really try and focus on meeting investors, finding out what they're looking for, seeing whether you can find deals like that, and just connecting them to those people. If there's an easy way, what you might find when you're just doing that, if you're very relaxed about it, what you might find is if you find an investor that says, hey, I'm looking at early stage biotech companies, and then a couple of days later, you come across someone on LinkedIn that has a startup in the biotech space. And you can say, hey, look, I've got somebody in my network that's investing in that. Would it be interesting to you if I connect them? They may very well say yes. And by the way, if they invest, we have a 5% finder's fee. That's great. Run with that. Do the connection. I'll talk later when it comes to construct. I'll talk about my view on contracts for these kind of things. Let me lay it out quickly now, because it's probably, again, is going to be the most controversial area of this. I'm not a huge fan of getting contracts up front in these deals. So the idea that we're trying to get in GILD is that I match person A with person B for an investment opportunity, and I take a slice of that deal. Now, what a lot of people will do is they will find person A, maybe they find person B, and they will try and tie down each party in contracts long before they do the introduction. And the idea being, well, I got to do this first, because if I introduce them and they do the business and I get cut out of the loop, that's a very, very bad scenario. The problem with that is most deals don't happen. Like, just the reality of human nature, and there's so much going on. The majority of deals will never complete in the way you're expecting them to complete, or they could take years to complete. And what can happen when you get into contracts is, suppose you meet person A and you say, hey, I might be able to help you with this. I'd like to put an introducer agreement in place. And they say, well, okay, but I need to get my lawyer to look at it. And then their lawyer comes back and says, well, yeah, but I want to change this, this, and this. Now that person has got legal fees. Then it comes back to you. You think, oh, well, I probably need to get my lawyer to have a look at this. So now you've got legal fees. You go through this whole process. You then do the same process with the other person. You get into this long, drawn out process. And you've got to ask yourself, okay, let's suppose that this happens. Let's suppose that you sign these contracts, you put them together, the deal happens, and then for some reason they cut you out of the deal. Do you even have the time, money, energy, resources to chase them through the courts to try and get your money back? And you might say, yeah, but it's $1 million. That's a lot of money to me. Yeah, but it could cost you tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars to chase it through the court with no guarantee that you're going to get that return. So, and I know this is controversial, because I know other people are very, very focused on get all the paperwork sorted out first. My view is very much, I'm willing to do it on a handshake. So I will do it on an email, say, hey, look, I'm more than happy to introduce you in return for 5% finder's fee. If they accept that, that is almost as good as a contract, and you can move forward. Now, the reality is, in most deals, I don't have the time or energy to go and chase them if it's not going to work out, if they're going to try and screw me over. And so really, it's not worth me taking the time to put the contracts in place in the first time. If somebody turns out to be unethical, I'm just not going to work with them again. I've got too many other opportunities coming through. And I've got deals, just too many to mention, deals over the last 10, 15 years where it's just done on a handshake. I've got deals outstanding today that are worth tens of millions of dollars just on a handshake. And the deals, several deals where I've been screwed have been ones where they've been completely watertight on contracts, but some of them are still going through court. Like, it's just such a pain, and it's very rarely worth the effort. And the bigger you get in this game, the more people are able to hide their assets. And yeah, so my view, especially at the beginning, is really don't get caught up on contracts. We'll give you, in the construct stage, I'll give you some introducer contracts that you can use, but look, my view is just make the connection. You win if they win, and hopefully you end up with good people surrounding you, and anyone that's unethical, just leave them. So That's kind of a little bit off topic, but it's a good sort of mindset, I think, to have. I know there'll be people that disagree vehemently with that, but that's kind of my approach to doing it. For now, when you're getting started out, just start sharing deals, start sharing connections, just try and be the center of attention that was making everything happen. Because the more you do that, the more deals will come to you. And then you get to a situation where you just have this complete abundance mindset where it doesn't matter if you miss a deal. There's so many deals coming to you all the time. You can just make money on the next deal. So that's the philosophy, and that's the content. What I'll be doing is I'll be interviewing people, dropping more content into this section, really around everything to do with what we've just talked about. In the next section, I'll get more into the connections, who you want to be connecting with, and how you attract people and keep them in your network.